rose up early in the morning. I got to stop right there. He did not waste time. He didn't question God about it. He didn't drag his heels. Now, dragging heels is important. Why? There's a natural inclination to drag your heels, especially when it's something you don't want to do. Well, maybe I can just slide under the radar here. Maybe things will change. Maybe I can get around it. You're just setting yourself up to fail by dragging your heels. I repeat that. When God calls you to do something, get on it right away. Because the longer you wait, the more time the enemy has to work in your life to mess up God's plans for you. He's a man. He leads. He gets up early in the morning to tackle the problem. Doesn't wait around. Doesn't try to understand what's going on first. Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. How did he know the right direction to go in? It wasn't like, well, where'd be a good place to sacrifice my son? It wasn't like that. He got up and the Holy Spirit led him. In the midst of this, I'm sure he thought he didn't know what he was doing or how he was going to do it. It was like, but you know what, God guides you. Even in the midst of those dark hours when you can't, when you don't have the foggiest idea what to do, God will lead you. And did. 3 days later, on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. 3 days of traveling. 3 days of wrestling with this issue. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad, will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. He's in the Holy Spirit. Why? Because this is exactly the description of what he's going to do. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? Ooh, good question. How do you answer that one? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. This is one of the amazing things. This is one of the amazing things. He knows what he hears intellectually. Go offer your son as burnt offering. He doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand this God because he knows this God is not into sacrifice of human flesh. Intellectually, he doesn't understand the command. Spiritually, he knows something. And you see, when God puts you in a situation you understand, go back to first principles. Go back to the principles you know and understand about God. He knows this. He speaks this in the Spirit. God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt. He doesn't know how this is going to work out. Not got the foggiest idea. But he knows the God that he serves. In the same way that you and I know the God we serve. So when the crunch comes, don't get into your head. Don't get confused. Don't get angry. Don't get anxious. Don't get fearful. Go to the principles of what you know about the God that you serve. There's times when he's not going to talk to you. We have tests, trials just like this. He's not going to talk to us. Because he's proving to us what's in us. That's why we have to go back to the principles that we know about the God that we serve. Because we're not going to hear from him. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound his Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. Now, how does this man who's over 100 years old tie up his son and lay him on the wood? Obviously, his son was cooperating. Now, I want you to consider the nature of the man that can have his son willingly do that for him. What does it mean? It means that this man had proven his love to his son. Without question. Had proven his integrity to his son. Without question. That's the only way, and had proven himself to be a man of God, without question. It's only on that basis that his son would agree to be tied up and put on the wood as an offering. That's the challenge of fatherhood. To treat your children in such a way that they know, first of all, that you're righteous, that you're a person of integrity, and that you love them without question. That's not just for a father, that's for any mother. Father, mother, it's about parenthood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. He still doesn't understand, but he's obedient. Why? He's obedient to what he thinks he knows. You see, when you're obeying God, you can't make a mistake. God won't allow you to make a mistake because your heart's in the right place. Your understanding, that might not be, but the understanding will follow the faith that you have. And it does here. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here am I. You know, the first time he spoke was before this, and now this is at the end of it. And he says, here am I. Same way. And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. This is about giving it back to God. He wasn't looking for the death of his son, he was looking for the sacrifice of his son. A big difference. The question that we have as individuals, can we sacrifice what's most important in our lives? Can we give it to Jesus, or do we hang on to it? And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah-Jireh, God my provider. As it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. But the story isn't quite over now. This was the test. Okay, that's nice. It's the test. That's nice. So he was able to give it to God. That's a good thing. It's good. I mean, it's like his faith triumphed over his reasoning. But that's the test that we all have. Will you allow the faith of God to triumph over your reasoning or your understanding? That's the test we all have. But there's more. Verse 15, and the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, by myself, this is Jesus speaking, have I sworn, saith the Lord. For because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Now, when I said at the beginning, Christianity is a life of sacrifice. We receive the sacrifice of Jesus, and then our life, our growth, our spiritual growth is about sacrifice back to God, to give up the things in the flesh that we hang on to. The relationships, the things, the house, the car, the career, the health, the 401k, the vacations, the sports events that we get tied up in. Giving Jesus Real Madrid. Giving God everything. And he finally comes after the thing that's most important. He just kind of chips away at it until he gets to bring it to a focus. He says, okay, this is the last big thing. Is Jesus bigger than that? And we say yes or no. But if we say yes, then he shows us what we gain by it. You see, we always gain more than what we sacrifice. I can say that with assurance. We always gain more than what we give up. Why is that? God is no debtor to any person. Whatever we give up in the flesh, we gain in the spirit. And the spirit is so much more powerful because it's from God. The flesh isn't from God, in the sense of indulging the flesh is the end of the line. But giving that to God gives us the power of God, the life of God, which is infinite. and the flesh can't come near that.